Will was the first chiropractor that I ever worked for. I was his chiropractic assistant when I was 18 years old. And he's a lot older than he looks.
And he still looks the same.
He takes good care of himself.
He was my Ed McMahon. He used to sit in the crowd and laugh at everything I said and get the whole crowd going.
I'm going to do that tonight.
Right.
Anyway, Will and
I'm not going to tell any jokes, so it's going to be a real problem.
He's been interfering with me for years, talking over me. Anyway, Will was
Nothing's
the
changed.
first person to actually turn my mind towards the fact that things might not be the way they appear in all these different arenas of health, and including I came to work for him because I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I thought it would be a good idea to work for a chiropractor. And I came and found this crazy man, teaching all these truths, and he knew all sorts of things about health. And together over the last 20 years, we've known each other 20 years, maybe 21 years.
Probably longer.
And we've grown together and have learned a lot. And Will has become quite the expert in this area of immunizations or the vaccine concepts, which you'll probably come to find may not necessarily be all they're cracked up to be. Although we like to teach people that you really should make an informed choice, we're not going to tell you tonight, maybe, that you shouldn't vaccinate.
I'll tell you that.
But you really do need to make a decision based on truth and information. And I think today you're going to be inundated with truth and information. Will is also the author of a book called
I forgot.
The Germ Theory.
Goodbye, Germ Theory.
Goodbye, the Germ Theory. This theory that is still a theory after all these years. Can you imagine? After 100 plus years, it's still a theory. I thought in science that once a theory was unproven, that you either got rid of it, or if it was proven, it became a fact or a law. But after all these years, it's still a theory. So he has a wonderful book I'd like you to all consider. And we also have but today I'm going to give him the stage because this is really his expertise. So welcome my good friend and mentor, Dr. Wil Trebing. I love you, brother.
Thank you. Before we got here, I was talking with Karen. We took our kids to the skate park. And I had said, so you don't vaccinate your kids anymore? She goes, no, not since I've been with Dr. Jeff. And I said, okay, you don't need to come to the class. So as long as you can just vow to me that you're not going to vaccinate your kids, we could all leave right now. We don't have to do this. We can go. Oh, I got eyes. No, but they're not going to do that. They want to hear the class. So I give the I give the crash course. First of all, let's say I'm going to try to get through a lot of material. Jeff says I'm an expert. Of course, I'm going to say I'm far from an expert. I've done a lot of research on the subject, primarily because I have children. If I don't have children, I probably still do research on the subject because I love children. I was a teacher for 3-4 years before I became a chiropractor. Went to chiropractic school, actually left my high school teaching job halfway in and went to chiropractic college because they accepted me early. I've loved kids all my life. I've never really grown up myself. Ask my wife. How many women here can attest to that to their husbands? Thanks, okay. Stay that way, guys, it helps. The subject is tough. It's really tough because I find after doing over 20 of these lectures that, and I don't really do them too much anymore because I'm moving on to novels and things like that with my writing career, but the subject is tough, and it's primarily tough for parents because they don't want to, first of all, it's tough to know that this type of organization that preys upon children exists because we all know what we feel about people that prey upon children. Secondly, we don't like to think that we've done anything bad to our children, and that's what I think gets people the most hurt and the most aggravated with this particular subject. If you have vaccinated, the thing to do is to understand that there are things you can do to reverse the effects of the mercury and the other toxins that are within the child's system. We'll talk about that afterwards. My friend here, I'm sure, is going to have something to say about that. There's homeopathy. There are other things that you can do to reverse the damage that has already been done, as long as there isn't any neurological damage done that's manifesting, such as autism and things like that. But that's the primary, lecturing through the country as I have, I've noticed that that's the one thing. So also with questions, let's try to leave the questions at the end. I'm going to try to get through a whole bunch of material all at once. It's going to seem like it's going to rattle your brain. I'm going to put up a whole bunch of statistics. I'm going to put a whole bunch of facts up. And try to just kind of take it in the moment. If you get the book, it's only $20. All the facts are in here. You don't feel like you have to really scribble anything down really quick, because all the research that I've done, which is really just a compilation of all the research everybody else has done, put in my own words, is really in the book. You could also get the book online, and I'll put that up for you. So just try to absorb, take in. My view is slanted towards the way I feel about it, because I'm very passionate about kids, and I know that vaccines aren't necessary from what I've experienced in my own professional career. The kids up here have done a little thing here, so you might tell that you were getting into a little bit of a biased view here, but essentially this is the essence of the entire class. Natural immunity good, vaccines bad. Now, of course, on television years ago, there were all these shows about, bad lots of vaccines. Remember that? Don't use this lot of vaccine. They're all bad. Don't use any of them, okay? That's the basis of what I'm here to say. I've had people stand up at lectures and say, well, there's all this research and I can cite it. Well, vaccine research, there is a fine line between real science and junk science, and the public doesn't understand what the difference is, and 95% of the people are going to default on what their MD scares them into doing because they have stories. Nobody really vaccinates because they've done the research on their own. They vaccinate because they're trusting somebody who has told them, well, give the kid the shot because they need this. Or there's a fear of the state, which we will also talk about. You're not going to be able to get your child into school unless you vaccinate. Many parents have that concern. Well, I really don't want to vaccinate my child, but I don't want to be ostracized from the opinions of my family, number one, and I want to make sure my child can get into school. Well, we'll talk about that as well. In Florida, you don't have that much of a problem. States like where I'm from, up in New York, I live in Connecticut, which we don't have any problem, but in New York, they have very big problems. We can also talk about that. There are several states which are going the way of more or less police states, even though they do have vaccine exemptions that they have on the books, but